Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be giving you guys our predictions for UFC 305 in Perth, Australia, coming up this weekend, August 17th. I'm a little bit late getting this video out, so I apologize, but we're going to run through the early prelims a little bit quicker, and then the prelims, and then we'll spend a little bit more time on the main card. So, kicking it off, we have Stuart Nickel versus Jesus Aguilar at flyweight. And we don't know a ton about Stuart Nickel. He has no information on the UFC website. And I only know about Jesus Aguilar. I've seen him fight a couple times. He's 10-2. He's a really fun flyweight. He makes things gritty, makes things fun. I see him getting into the top 15, top 10 pretty quickly here. Do I see him getting into the top 5 or fighting for a title? I don't know. 125's gotten really stacked recently with guys like Ray and Tyra. We got Kai Kara France, which we'll talk about later, but I'm really, really excited to see him break into the top 15 and make some fun fights at 125. So I hope he gets the win. Who do you got winning that one?
Well, there's not too many people left in 125, so I assume he's going to break in to the top 15 here soon, but he's just a really fun, gritty fighter. He's just entertaining all the way through. So I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about him either. I just seen him fight once or twice. I think he was on the losing end of a very exciting fight, so I just think his UFC experience is going to be the edge against Stuart Nickel. So that's pretty much it for that fight.
Yeah, then moving on, we got a welterweight bout between Song Kinyan and Ricky Glenn. Song Kinyan representing China. I'm not the most familiar on both of these guys. I see kind of their records are kind of 50-50. They're a little spotty, but usually when two guys like this get matched up on the early prelims, the UFC knows what they're doing. So I expect it to be a fun fight. But you like Ricky Glenn.
Yeah, I like Ricky Glenn. He's got some fluid striking. He's able to disengage in the grappling quite often and get his strikes off. But this is his first fight, I believe, at welterweight in the UFC. His last couple of fights, he's been at 155. He's been on a little bit of a skid, but before then he had a draw against Grant Dawson, an undefeated Grant Dawson, which is a pretty big deal, who had really, he had title aspirations and he got derailed a little bit by Bobby Green. But before then, I seen him retire, which is sad. Mitch Clark from Edmonton here. So he's a really fun fighter to watch. He's very fluid. I hope that he wins. It is going to be a bit of a change for him fighting at welterweight, but I think that's probably going to help with his chin because he did get TKO'd in his last two fights, and I'm hoping that he pulls out the W here.
Awesome. Okay, then moving on for our headliner for the early prelims, we have a lightweight bout between Tom Noland and Alex Reyes. And yes, that is Dominic Reyes' younger brother. However, I'm going to take Tom Noland in this one. He's an Australian prospect. He's 24 years old. He came off of the Contender Series. Unfortunately, he got knocked out in his first UFC fight, but I assume he's going to bounce back and go on another streak. From what I've seen from him, he's quite explosive. He's minus 1,200. So I'm probably going to bet on him. But yeah, I'm excited to see how this kid does. And yeah, we don't really like the Reyes around here. So
yeah, the Reyes family is a losing family. They're trash bag family. We don't care about them in the slightest. If they have the last name Reyes, even if they're not a part of the same family, we're always going to choose against Reyes. And we even know that Dominic Reyes got matched up with Anthony Smith. I don't even care that I think Dominic Reyes is probably going to win that. I will choose Anthony Smith as I will choose Tom Nolan.
Let's go. So that wraps up the early prelims. Moving on to the first fight of the regular prelims, we have another big favorite in the featherweight division. We have Jack Jenkins versus Herbert Burns, another younger brother in the UFC. I believe he's the younger brother, right? Of Gilbert? Maybe he's the older brother.
Yeah, Herbert Burns is the younger brother of Gilbert.
Okay, and then Jack Jenkins is a minus 800 going into this fight. I believe he's 15-3 or something like that, and all of his losses have been like pretty close fights. He makes fights fun and gritty, and this is a great way to kick off the prelims.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to start the upsets with the Australians. I know Herbert Burns hasn't been doing too well as of late, but early in his career in the UFC, he did pretty well. He had like a 2 or 3 fight win streak. And I think he's going to go back to his jiu-jitsu roots and make it a really frustrating fight for Jack Jenkins. So I'm going to say second round submission or decision.
I like
But
it.
I think it's going to be quite boring because I think he's going to frustrate Jack Jenkins, or it's going to be KO, TKO for Jack Jenkins early in the first. But I'm edging towards Herbert.
Nice. I'm edging towards Jack, but I think it's going to be a fun fight either way. Next up, we got a women's flyweight bout. We got number 15 ranked Casey O'Neill versus Luana Santos. Now, Casey's coming off of 2 losses in a row, so she really needs to get this one. This will be a fun women's fight because both of these women like to stand up and strike. But Luana Santos is 8-1 on a 5-fight winning streak, and because Casey O'Neill had trouble with Lipsky, I'm going to go with Santos in this fight, but I think this will be a very fun women's fight, so I'm happy for that.
Yeah, and Santos, she just came off a first round submission last month. So she's on a roll right now. She's 3-0 in the UFC, and her judo is really good. Her ground game is really good. Plus, her stand-up is pretty nifty, and I just don't think Casey O'Neill is evolved to the level of Luana Santos. So I'm going to give the edge to Santos. Can there be an upset where Casey O'Neill wins? Of course. She is a very good, talented fighter, but I just I feel like you can never really bet against the streaking fighter.
True. Yeah, I'm going with Santos, and I hope if Casey loses, because, sometimes you get 3 losses and they cut you, I hope they don't cut her because she's great at this weight class, and she's only 26, I believe, so she's fairly young. And but I'm taking Santos for sure. Moving on, we have another Australia versus Brazil fight. We got 3 in a row of Australia versus Brazil. So we got Josh Culibao versus Ricardo Ramos at featherweight. The odds are basically even for this, and this is the other fight on this fight card that I'm not too familiar with both of the fighters. I've seen Ricardo Ramos fight before, but he's usually on the prelims. And I don't really know who to pick for this one, but it's kind of a coin toss.
Well, it's Battle of the Southern Hemisphere, it seems like, here on the prelims. But I'm going to go Josh Kalibo or whatever. However you say his name.
Culibao? Yeah, I don't know.
Say it however you want. Correct me. I don't care. But I'm going to go with him just because he's a hometown kid. And I think the crowd's really going to be on his side and help him out with the victory.
Yeah, I'll take Ramos just for the fun of it, but I honestly have no idea who's going to win. But usually when there's fights like this, the matchmakers know what they're doing, so I trust the matchmakers.
Also, I didn't realize Casey O'Neill is from Australia.
You didn't realize that?
No, well, she lives in Scotland, I believe. So.
Oh, yeah. And then headlining the prelims here, we have a heavyweight bout between Junior Tafa and Walter Walker. Now, I don't know anything about this Walter Walker guy, so I can't really comment on him. But I do like Junior Tafa. He's a lot of fun. He seems to either knock people out in brilliant fashion or get knocked out in brilliant fashion. So I'm going to side with him. He just seems to have a lot of power in his hands. But this should be a fun heavyweight fight. I hope it goes to a knockout. Usually when there's a heavyweight fight and it's not the top 5 guys and it goes to a decision, it's usually pretty boring. So I hope this fight just ends in a knockout.
Yeah, it seems like Walter is just a sacrifice piece to Junior Tafa. I know the odds say it's a really close fight, but I mean, those junior guys, when they're fighting in Australia, it's Shui Central. It's just like they got the Tuivasa effect. There's something about these Tafa guys. They almost remind you of the Hunts as well. It's just,
yeah.
They're fun. They're Australian, and they bang.
Yeah.
Whether they go down or the other person goes down, it's entertaining through and through, and I think it's going to stay true. And Junior Tafa's got really fluid hands, and I believe he's going to stop Walter and probably put his lights out in under a half a round.
I hope so. Yeah, we have another guy that you just mentioned similar to him later on this card. So getting into the main card now, there's a lot of great fights on this main card. Kicking it off, we have a brilliant matchup at welterweight between Lichi Lang and Carlos Prates. And Leach has been off for a while, so I'm excited to see him come back. Prates, however, is a minus 325 favorite, and that's because he's got quite a few first-round finishes. I believe he has like 10 first-round finishes or something like that, and he got 14 knockouts. I believe Leach is somewhere around the same. They have very similar records, and they both finish a lot of fights in the first round. So I don't expect this to go the distance. I expect this to be a very fun fight, and I'm going to take Prates just because he seems like a world beater when he's on, but I am going to be cheering for the Leach. So,
well, I too am going to be taking Carlos. He's streaking. He's making a name for himself. And he knows how to put people's lights out, especially as of recent. So, I mean, I feel like you got to take Carlos in this situation, especially a guy with a really long layoff. I know he's still somewhat younger, but it's just not a good spot for Song Yudong, or not Song Yudong, jeez, the Leech. So we're taking Carlos.
Carlos Prates. And then we have a heavyweight bout between the 10th ranked Tai Tuivasa and number 12th ranked Jairzinho Rosenstrike. So Jairzinho's closing at a minus 230 favorite right now. He just came off of a really good performance against an undefeated heavyweight, handed him his first loss by basically outboxing him for 5 rounds and keeping him at the end of the jab. So this fight is very interesting to me, not because I think either of these guys are going to be fighting for the belt anytime soon, but because of the style matchup. So Jairzinho likes to stay on the outside, pick you apart with the jab, throw some nice kicks in there. But Tai likes to walk people down, get in the clinch, land some uppercuts and some elbows. So I wonder if he can walk down Jairzinho. We've seen people do it before with Francis, but I don't know if Tai can do it. So it'll be a very, very fun fight for that reason. I'm very curious on how this one plays out.
Yeah, I'm going to Tai Tuivasa. I think he's going to walk him down, throw those bombs, get him up against the cage, and Jairzinho Rosenstrike is going to circle out and put his lights out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know you were going there with that.
I love Tai Tuivasa, but I feel like this is a horrible, horrible stylistic matchup for him.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say with you taking Tai, like I'm going to take Jairzinho, but you going with Jairzinho, I agree. I think he's just going to be too technical, too smart. He's got higher striking IQ, so he'll be able to keep Tai off of him, I believe. So, but it'll be a fun fight regardless. That's a great matchup.
It also could be one of those fights that gets ended early. Pretty, like first round, maybe beginning of the second round, like at max. That's what I think. Because Tai Tuivasa puts himself in such vulnerable positions, he doesn't allow himself to even get to the third round.
Agreed. Yeah, that is going to be fun to see how that plays out. And then we have a lightweight bout between number 5 ranked Matthias Gamrot versus Dan Hooker, ranked at number 11. So Gamrot's coming in at a minus 325 favorite. This is a classic striker versus wrestler matchup. Gamrot, he's beaten Arman. I thought that was a very close fight. I thought maybe Arman won, but Arman Sarukian's going to be fighting for the title next, and Gamrot has a win over him. Some people think Gamrot has better wrestling than Islam. I don't know yet. I know he's probably not as strong as Islam, but his technical wrestling's good enough for him to hang with Islam if he gets that fight. So he needs to get past Dan Hooker for us to see just how good he is. Dan Hooker, though, you don't want to overlook. He is a very, very crafty striker. Very hard to knock that guy out. You watched the Poirier fight just a couple years ago. It was fight of the year. He could have easily won that fight. So,
and not to mention the Jalen Turner fight where he
Jalen
got
Turner
head kicked, his arm broken, and he goes, "Nah, mate," and just plows forward and wins.
Yeah. So Dan Hooker, you can never count him out. And Gamrot, I don't know if he has that edge to him, but we'll see. We'll see. Gamrot definitely has the technical ability to beat anybody at 155. We're just going to see in this fight if he has that razor edge to really cut through Dan Hooker. But yeah, that's an exciting one.
Yeah, I'm going to say I think Gamrot's going to win. He just knows how to close the distance, and I don't believe Dan Hooker has the defensive wrestling ability to, keep it standing. But with that being said, when he first came up to lightweight, when everybody went for his legs, the knee was coming up. So I feel like Gamrot does shoot out from pretty far, and as much as I want to take Gamrot, there's just like everybody knows Gamrot's going to win, but they don't really want him to because he's not the most exciting. So I'm going to go Dan Hooker. As much as I don't want to, there's something in me that says Dan Hooker's going to do it, and he's going to put himself in the title conversation somehow once again. He's just got that weird underdog mentality where you can really never count him out.
Yeah, I hope you're right, because I'd like to see him back in the top 10 and fighting those guys again. Like, you can match him up with Max Holloway tomorrow, and that's a super fun fight. So I hope Dan Hooker does get this win, but I can't go against Gamrot. From what I've seen from him, I honestly think he has the technical wrestling ability to make a tough fight with Islam. So I'm going to take Gamrot, but But yeah, I honestly don't care how this one
Yeah.
goes, to be honest.
And honestly, like Dan Hooker, he's got that surprising jiu-jitsu about him too, where he can get those high
Super long
elbow.
arms, yeah.
Yeah, he's got the high elbow guillotine on his side as well, which has been very vicious and useful. Like I remember Jacasey, he was beating him up pretty bad, and he was even starting to wrestle him a bit. And then in the third round, he dives in for a takedown, and it was in under a second. It was just latched on, and 3 seconds later, he's tapping. It was that quick. So he has that ability to just latch up a guillotine, and I believe with his length, he's able to lock on to someone like Gamrot and finish the choke. If he was a bit shorter, let's say he's about 5'10", 5'9", same size as Gamrot, it would be really hard for him to finish that choke, but I think just because of how lengthy he is and he uses his Muay Thai properly, he can put him out or choke him out.
Yeah, that one's so much fun. We got 2 more fights to talk about. Next up, we got the flyweight bout between Kai Kara-France, ranked at number 4, and Steve Erceg, ranked at number 7. So this is a New Zealand versus Australia fight. I think the last time that happened was Izzy versus Rob. You guys can let me know down in the comments if I'm wrong about that, but that's super fun for the Kiwis and Aussies, especially it being in Perth. So I think my mind's telling me that Kai Kara-France is just a little bit too technical, a little bit too fast for Steve, but I really want Steve to win because that Pantoja fight going into it, I had no idea who this guy was. And I love the UFC. I'm a huge fan, but I had no idea who this guy was. Watching that fight and just how tough he was, the way he was able to land combos, the way he was able to make that a gritty fight and a close fight with Pantoja. I still think Pantoja won, but damn was that a close fight. So I'm a big fan of Steve Erceg. I really want him to win, but something in my mind's telling me that Kai Kara-France is just still a little bit too quick, a little bit too technical, and I feel like he's going to squeeze this out. This is, I think, a 3-round fight, which is unfortunate. I would have liked this to be 5 rounds. I think the quality's there where you could have made it 5 rounds, but yeah. What do you think?
I'm going to go with Steve Erceg. I was a really big fan of him. Well, I only seen the one performance when he beat Matt Schnell by knockout. I said, wow, this guy's got real potential in the UFC. And then the performance that he put on against Pantoja was incredible. And I think he's going to get the win over Kai Kara-France because he knows how to find those straight shots where Kai Kara-France, he doesn't have the option to be a sniper because he's quite short. He's about 5'4", 5'3".
That's true.
Steve Erceg's about 5'7" at flyweight, and he's an absolute pinpoint sniper when he wants to be. And I believe Kai Kara-France is going to be just chasing him the whole time. And at one of these points, Steve Erceg, he's going to time the car crash and just put an elbow right in his face. It's going to cut him up. And we've seen Kai Kara-France get dropped quite a few times. We have not seen Steve Erceg even get hurt, really, in the UFC.
That's true.
Or previous fights. So I'm going to go Steve Erceg. And even if Kai Kara-France, I know he has a little bit of wrestling, he tries to get to the ground with Steve Erceg. His defensive wrestling and his get-ups were so impressive. He was even able to get top position on Pantoja for a little bit, which is nearly impossible in flyweight. Yeah. So I'm going to go Steve Erceg as kind of like the underdog, kind of fun pick. But it is a real pick-me fight. You can't go wrong going in, either way. But I'm going to go Steve Erceg, either late finish or decision.
Yeah, and depending on what happens with this fight, too, before we get into the main fight, would you like to see the winner of this get the title shot or the winner of Royval-Tyra? Because I want the Tyra title shot, personally.
If Tyra wins, give him the title shot. If he loses, you got to go Erceg versus
rematch
Royval, I'd say, because you can't really give Royval the title shot right away because he already lost to Pantoja twice.
Yeah.
So he has to really earn it. It's kind of like Robert Whittaker, where he really has to earn his matches to the title.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but
yeah,
it's just in the flyweight. It's kind of held up. There's also that other Japanese fighter that's
Ray.
Coming up.
Yeah.
He's got a big fight coming up as well. I think he might be fighting Pantoja. There's kind of some rumors going on with that.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's flyweight's in a weird spot where you really got to have a phenomenal performance to get a title shot, where if Steve Erceg looks phenomenal, he might be able to jump up and take the next title shot because of how close it was with Pantoja.
Yeah, and that like Makayev should have been top 3, getting into that top 5 at least, but now he's gone. So yeah.
Oh, he gone, girl.
Yeah. Apparently he signed. Apparently he tweeted out today that he signed somewhere. I don't know where. If you guys have any info, let me know.
Yeah, he signed a contract with McDonald's.
Street beefs. Yeah. We'll see. I'm still bummed that they cut him. But anyways, we got the middleweight title bout, the one that everybody's excited for. Dracus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. The odds are basically even right now. If you're looking on paper, if you're doing MMA math, you should probably take Dracus because he beat Sean and Sean beat Izzy. But I don't think that nearly tells the whole story of this fight. Dracus, I don't think he's going to be able to utilize his wrestling against Izzy because Izzy is one of the best at takedown defense at 185. He's got those long legs, a really strong base. It's even hard to take him down up against the cage. He's got a very, very good base, so I don't see the wrestling coming in too much in this fight. If it does, good for Dracus. Like, that's probably a key to win. If Yoel landed one takedown in his fight with Izzy, he would have won the fight. So I definitely am looking for Dracus to shoot a takedown and get Izzy down, but I don't think it's going to happen. Dracus has very unorthodox striking, though. And Izzy, in that last fight with Sean, it seemed like he went in there against a guy who had just something completely different for him, and he didn't know how to handle the iCarly boxing style, and he just kind of got stunned. And then that fight was really weird, and Sean kind of won it in the last few seconds. It was an odd fight, but that could happen in this fight because of how unorthodox Dracus' striking is. His punches and his kicks come from weird angles. Now, that being said, in the Sean fight with Dracus, there was times where Dracus was missing, not by inches, but by feet. And Israel's very good at making people miss. So I'm a little bit skeptical if Dracus is going to be like swinging punches. Izzy's going to make a miss and then just knock him out quickly. On the Izzy side, I'm really hoping we get contender Izzy here. When Izzy's a contender and he's fighting like Gastelum and Pereira for the second time, he's a different fighter than when he's fighting Sean or Yoel and he's making these boring decision fights, right? So I hope we get contender Izzy this fight, and he's a little bit more hungry for that knockout. And I'm going to take Israel by first or second round knockout because that's just what I'm feeling. But this should be a very fun fight. I know you got more to say about Dracus.
Yeah, like you said, with the awkward striking and everything, and his weird pressure. It's like he can be on the outside and hit you, but then he's in your face again. His footwork, his stand-up makes no sense. His wrestling really makes no sense either.
Yeah.
But he's just able to make it all work. He's just one of the most awkward dudes to watch. But he makes it work. It's like Strickland. You don't think he should win, but he wins. He's just a winner. But Dracus has got something that Strickland doesn't have. Couple things. Knockout power and just wrestling. So I think all these weird angles that Izzy's going to be feeling in there, it's either going to be Israel Adesanya pieces him up in the first 2 rounds, knocks him out second, third round, or it's going to be the most grueling fight of Israel Adesanya's career. And he's also got leg kicks, Dracus. Izzy kind of struggles with leg kicks. And it might be like a 4th or 5th round TKO submission. And we seen Dracus, he didn't even slow down in the slightest against Strickland. He just kept at that same pace. And I've never seen anybody match Strickland's pace all the way to the 5th round. So I got to go Dracus.
Yeah, those are good reasons. Just the Sean fight with all those jabs he was getting on Dracus. I'm like, man, if Izzy lands half of those jabs, Izzy's jab I think is a lot stronger than Sean's. So I don't know, but I'm not gonna say that Izzy's gonna win via jab. I think he's gonna make him miss and knock him out like Rob in that first Rob fight.
And that makes sense. Everything that you say makes sense, but it's just something about Dracus.
Yeah, he's odd.
He makes every fight make 0 sense.
Yeah, he's an odd duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fun. And the press conference will be a lot of fun. I really like Dreykus, like on the mic and outside of the cage. He seems like a really cool guy.
Kissing dudes, love it.
Yeah, and then Izzy, like, man, like when he became champ and knocked out Rob, like his style, man, I can't not like it, right? It's like John Jones or Anderson Silva. You can't not like it if you care about striking at all. It's beautiful. It's art. But I hated Israel. I hated him off the mic. I thought he was way too cocky. His ego was way inflated. And then he got a couple losses. Ego dropped down a little bit. And now everybody hates Izzy. And I like Izzy. It's like the opposite. It's kind of funny. But now I do appreciate Israel Adesanya and his amazing run that he had. And I hope he gets the belt back. And I hope he goes on another run because he's one of the more entertaining champions when he is entertaining. When he's boring, he's the most boring champion I've ever watched. So,
Hey, and don't worry, guys. I've hated Israel Adesanya, and I still hate him.
yeah, I don't hate him anymore. There's other fighters now that I don't like, like Bilal.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We won't even talk about Bilal. Yeah.
Good performance, Bilal. That's all I can say.
But yeah, you have any other concluding thoughts on this fight card?
Not really. I think it's going to be a really good card. A lot of people are saying it doesn't have the name factor, but if you followed MMA like us, you know, when they bring a crowd to Australia, especially with Australian fighters in particular,
Yeah.
they have a really entertaining style. Like when we get a lot of Canadians on our cards,
We all lose.
yeah, and also Canadian fighters aren't typically the most entertaining. But
Yeah.
Australia seems to deliver every single time they go over there. So I'm going to say congratulations to Australia for getting a wicked fight card.
Yeah, we got Australia fans and then Mexican fans back to back. Like that, like we're kind of spoiled there. And we get all their fighters too. Australian fighters are tough and so are Mexican fighters. So these are two great back-to-back pay-per-views. I can't wait to break down the Sphere card for you guys. And I'll probably do a breakdown once this fight happens on the weekend. There's a lot of interesting matchups here, so I'll do a breakdown afterwards. But yeah, that's kind of our predictions for the fights. Definitely let us know in the comments. Who do you have winning all these fights? Who do you have winning the main event? Who do you want to see Dreykus or Izzy fight after they win? And yeah, let us know why we're wrong about all of our takes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. It helps boost this channel in the algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, it means the world to me. Enjoy the fights. I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Join us for the next predictions for UFC Noche.